Joining me today on the Capital Show, Jim Price. Jim is a famous TV anchor or a famous host. You have the Jim Price Show. Jim, I saw you at CPAC. I want to have your assessment for 2023 event for this year in Washington, D.C.
Okay. It's great to have you, have me being a guest on your show. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. So about CPAC, how you assess the Trump speech? He got the polls to be elected for 2024. What did you see in this event?
Well, honestly, I really enjoyed the crowd. I thought that was pretty amazing to see a lot of people who were like-minded. But I think the poll on Trump is a direct reflection of what people really feel about him and other candidates. And yet the mainstream media continues to push the idea that he is declining in popularity and there isn't the grassroots effect that really wants to support him. They always want to put the narrative out there that there's a decline in interest. But yet when I was there and I watched his speech, the entire room was full, including the entire press pool. So the entire press pool itself even had the desire to hear whatever it was he had to say for the entire speech. So I saw those things going on, and I did see a full room. Now, there were times that people ebbed and flowed because people go to lunch and do different things. But it was a neat event, and it wasn't as big as what it was in Orlando, just because of a capacity or size capacity of the room itself.
We noticed that in all speakers' speech, there was one thing in common: China threat. What do you think about the U.S. administration can confront this threat?
Well, honestly, I believe that the China threat is actually overplayed. I think we're going to find out that through the monetary systems that are in place right now, China is going to continue to decline only because they've gone out. I think I would call it kiting too many checks and running their credit card too much. A lot of people believe that they're greater than they are, and that's part of the art of war, making yourself larger than you seem to your enemy. And we all keep paying attention to China as being this ominous threat. But I will have to go back to the idea: what do you own that has come from China that you take pride in, and the quality of craftsmanship and the material? Do you think that somehow they do something different for their own people? They don't. And the sad part of it is we've looked to them, but they have a collapsing age issue where the younger kids are not going to be coming up to replace the older people that are dying off. And so I look at China. Yes, every foreign nation is quote unquote a adversary of America because they're not America. They have their own interests, and we always should be mindful of that and always be mindful of our enemy. But at the same time, when you see that China and Russia and India, South Africa, even Germany now has asked for admittance into BRICS, which means they're creating a gold-backed currency outside of the U.S. petrodollar. It does cause me to concern that our country is not paying attention to the monetary value we have, but yet the international race to be first in a race that doesn't matter, which again, it's a lot of this information warfare that we're being played into.
Oh, great. I was yesterday at the National Press Club in D.C. Barbara Leaf, the United States Assistant Secretary for Near East Affairs, she talked about many topics. Main thing is about the conflict in the Middle East between Israel and Palestine. She said, I do believe that with the exception of extremist elements, militants group, the large portion of Palestinians like to have their state enjoy the fruits of stability and statehood and sovereignty. What is your point of view on this?
Well, obviously, I think that through the recognition of the media and those that feel like they want to beat the drums of war constantly, we do have a discerning group. And I say discerning, meaning that people are actually starting to make decisions on their own. They're not just taking what is said, but they're bringing it in and then processing it in their own way. And I think a lot of people are tired of it. They are war weary. They are tired of hearing of the wars and rumors of wars. And the idea that there is becoming a generation that's kind of forgot why they had to be at war, why they had to hate each other. And that's coming into play where, you see America going back into the Middle East for no given reason. They got rid of Gaddafi, who was a man that actually created a gold-backed currency within his own country and was really impressive in a lot of ways. Even though he's a very flamboyant dresser, we forgot that he actually was doing amazing things for his country, no different than how the Palestinians and the Israelis have actually gone out and they've carved out their section of the world, and they can work with each other. They don't have to hate each other. And they're realizing a lot of this stuff is because the TV or the narrative told them they have to hate each other. And they're realizing that maybe we don't have to go around and just, creating bloody wars for profiteers.
Yeah. One more thing. During Trump administration, we witnessed the Abraham Accords. UAE, Sudan, Bahrain, and Morocco, they joined the accords. How do you see this as a recognition of Israel as a state? How do you see this collaboration between these Arab countries and Israel?
Well, again, it's kind of getting away from what was initially told to us when after World War II that these people, argue and war with each other consistently over and over again. And yet we're realizing that a lot of the stuff that we were told to hate each other for really doesn't exist. And when we open up the dialogue with one another, and not only just I'm saying one another as in individuals, but also with countries, that we open that dialogue through the Abraham Accord as well and saying, you know what? Maybe we have more in common. Maybe we have better interest than just going to war with each other and doing body counts as a way of creating nationalism. We have a different path forward, which is communication. Even though the internet can be a bad place, it's also a platform for people to openly talk. And I get a lot of information across the globe that is not from the mainstream media. And it's amazing how different things really are when you talk to people on the ground that are actually affected by what they say on the narratives. Like, you're supposed to hate these people. Oh, you got to hate. Maybe we don't have to. Maybe there's a more common ground, because at the end of the day, whatever our religion or our country origin is, we're all human beings first, and we get to be amazing to each other, which eliminates a lot of things to fight about.
Okay, I have one more thing. In the latest news, the Muslim Brotherhood has been designated on a terrorist list in Paraguay and Comoros, and these two countries follow many countries who suffered from this Islamic terrorist group. What do you think about this designation?
Well, the problem with it is this language that we call designation, and we say, oh, this is this or that. I think we have to be a lot more firm about that, because these people are willing to do harm to others only because of location and color of skin, or maybe a type of religious background, which is not fair to most people, because that's why it's called terrorism. You're living in a state of fear constantly because you don't know who the enemy is, and it could be someone standing right next to you. And that really in itself, again, that's a broken ideology. That's an old way of thinking, of keeping the war drums beating constantly. And we don't have to be at war with each other. But yes, by saying, listen, these people are an issue. This group of people are an issue.
On another hand, Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber, he's the CEO of COP. He's the president of COP28. I'm going to ask you about climate change. He said in CIRA Week in Texas, Houston, a few days ago, he said, we need to get fully behind net zero. Every government needs to act to monitor, validate progress in climate change. The oil industry have the capacity to provide the clean energy the world needs. Your approach?
Well, absolutely. Innovation is going to be the move forward. By creating more taxation or more limiting forms of energy only affects the poor and the needy and the elderly among us. And it absolutely does not move us forward. When we had the Industrial Revolution, you realize that a lot of those things that were happening globally was because government wasn't in the way. People were going out and creating different methods and different ways of processing food, chemicals, different things like that to make better lubricants and things. When the government gets out of the way, we do amazing things. But to say that you're going to limit us to a infrastructure that is completely broke down, called the energy infrastructure, the electricity, and say that's how you're going to power the future, well, that's very short-minded. And the idea that we're actually still in a mini or minor ice age currently, to say that we have climate change, yes, the globe is constantly changing, and it will always constantly change. And that's a fear narrative to be able to push people into higher taxation and control their daily life. We have to let the people innovate and be free and be amazing through hydrogen and other types of cold fusion that I know is readily available on the market right now. We could do amazing things to create almost or absolute free energy, which then would allow us to be more free as a people.
My last question, it's in general. My audience is from Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and we know these two countries are important allies for the United States. How do you see this collaboration, these ties can be more effective combating terrorism, spreading peace, ameliorating lifestyle, economy, diversity, and exchange, cultural exchange? How do you see these ties?
Well, I think two things that need to happen. One is the governments themselves need to be super transparent. The more transparent they are about the policies and the way that they treat individuals in the countries, that gives the example to the world to say, listen, this is how we're willing to be transparent. We're letting the people understand and make their own decisions. But also when we really do allow people to be free, when the harder you push down the spring, the harder the spring pushes back, right? So there's a creative resistance there. When the governments actually get out of the way and allow free markets to flow, and if we said, listen, we're going to go into a handshake or two-man saw approach between those two countries and say, listen, we're going to do everything with each other. We're not going to tax each other. We're not going to limit each other. We're going to allow flow of our citizens to your country and your country to our country. And we create that, like I said, two-man saw where we're working with each other and allowing for innovation. We could be unstoppable going into the future. But when we limit each other by holding the people back or even keeping secrets, that's where we go wrong. And it takes us too long to overcome those things. So freedom and free market really is the answer. And I think I fully embrace the idea that we should be bringing each other closer to each other instead of creating tribalism to say, well, you stay over there, I'll stay over here, and we will be friends on terms. Let's be friends because we know we're both humans and we want what's best for each other on this globe.
Jim Price, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Hey, Maria Malouf here. Please click to like and subscribe to Maria Malouf TV YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.